BIDI. July 20th, 2019. Interviews figures. Well, BIDI is with you, and he greets you. Hi BIDI, greetings BIDI. I therefore follow the commander, to continue your questions and testimonies, and try, through our exchanges, beyond my words, beyond any understanding, as I have been doing for several months now, at 23 o'clock, to live directly the fire of the Sacred Heart, through the words and exchanges themselves. So, who wants to start questioning, telling, talking? I'm listening to you. Is it the commander who has softened you all? Laughs. In the meantime, I would like to take this opportunity to greet all of you whom I have not yet had the opportunity to meet directly, in the flesh, you might say, for you in any case. Who dares to ask the first question? Voice. So a first question comes up, sister. What does it mean to, when I hear you, want to jump with both feet, in my living room or elsewhere? Unlike listening to the other speakers, listening to BIDI puts me in a state of extreme excitement. It's very simple, it's a matter of affinity. Often I have been asked why I was speaking so loudly. It is precisely to cross you, and that you are not frozen in any intellectual understanding, but rather that you experience the reality of what I say beyond all intellect. So of course, and you have already known this for many years, some of you ran away when I arrived, because they could not tolerate the intensity. I am not talking about correctness, or non-accuracy, but it is also a question of affinity, resonance, and also of an ability to fade away, not before my words, but before one presence. The role, the pedagogical function of the way I intervene, since my first eruption in the well-established scenario of the ascension until today, obeys, of course, a logic that is only that of truth and nothing else. As I said when I was incarnate, whatever your questions are, and whatever my answers, questions and answers only pass through, and beyond leaving an understanding, they do leave a vibratory imprint of our meeting, marked by the seal of unity, of the law of one as you say, but also of the truth. It is far beyond understanding my words or any sound volume, even if the sound volume actually helps you to let the truth at you pass through you, and no longer just to intercept by understanding my words what I say. What is important is not only what I say, even in the structure of a sentence, but what is conveyed by my joined presence and your joined presence. I can't somehow leave you in a lukewarm state, either you accept or you refuse. But of course, indifference to what I say, as soon as you hear me, as soon as you listen to me, goes far beyond questions and answers, but it is the game of life, which does not care about the person, which does not care about the circumstances that go through you, and which makes a difference somewhere. The mark of what? Truth and zero time, having already prepared you, during my incarnation, and even more so since 2012, for what I said, when I was incarnated like you, that my words could not fail. And I will add today, whatever those words are, the important thing is not the word, the important thing is the word/verb, the important thing is what passes through you, whatever the language, and whatever speeches you make or I make, they are only pretexts, basically, to allow you to help you to cross the order of the person, and to cross the order of illusion. So indeed, there is either ejection and disappearance of the characters, or acceptance, even if you are not yet free, because beyond my explanations, it makes you go through and helps you to stabilize zero time. It's like that when I was incarnate and it's like that when I express myself through Weber, it's the same thing. The purpose should not be confused with the means. The means are the questions and answers, but the finality will never be the answer to your questioning, but something that acts, I would say without the knowledge of conscience, to situate yourself in the truth. I would like to point out that whether you accept it or not, it doesn't change anything. Whether you have heard me, rejected or accepted, the effect is exactly the same, through you and without your conscience knowing, whether you like it or not. You're only translating through what you call excitement a form of exaltation of truth, as you express it, so you have accepted the word/verb, beyond my answers and beyond the questions. There are obviously very profound differences in aspects, in words themselves, between my speech, my words, my presence, and the words of, for example, mine and Amoy. The same truth is served to you in many ways, and the purpose, whether in so-called structured, pedagogical teachings, or in my freedom of tone, is to allow you, without any comparison, to lead you beyond a will, and even beyond understanding, to the truth. And this mission is accomplished, of course. So yes, many of you listen only to me, but just as many of you listen to everyone else but me. Laughs. It doesn't change anything. It is like what I decreed at 23 p.m. in the evening, French time, but also in Canada, in Quebec, at their own time, the same thing. It is an ability to enter into resonance, fusion and dissolution of consciousness, in order to live a naked truth with the least effort, the least questions, and I would say, in a way, with an unshakable certainty. The power of words, in their volume, in their sometimes abrupt appearance, are only there to wake you up. The questions and answers, as when I was incarnate, come and go. It is not the content of the question, nor even the content of my answer that is important, it is the question and answer game itself, which unmasks, in a way, the gray areas, the areas of resistance, but also for many of you, an ability to accept the truth in these moments, without any question about yourself, without any question about your position. You live in that moment, as you expressed it, in the present moment. I am, in a way, the music of the spheres applied to the human being, which brings you closer to what you call the wide paradise, the Brahman, but also that Parabrahman. All this individually and collectively, whether or not you listen to me does not change anything in the matter, whether or not you accept me or not you change nothing in my presence and your presence. It is our one presence in these meetings that creates ever greater accessibility, ever more open, if I may say so, to the truth, to the absolute. And even if you are not yet there, as the liberated person may say, the fact of acting and accompanying my words in this way, raises in your self-doubts, what is heavy, and as you say, exalts, lifts and excites you. This excitement is not an excitation of the ego, but an inner upheaval, linked to the confrontation of words, the word/verb, silence and presence. They are made, these words, these answers, to cross the person, not only to be understood, not only to be accepted or refused, but much more as a driving and fundamental element, to live the zero time with more ease, with more speed and with more simplicity. When I came to shake you up, for those who were there during 2012, it was evidently to complete, in every sense of the word, the work of the elders, stars and archangels, which led to the living of the invisible on earth, that many of you had lived, with what you called the peoples of nature, which was not an end, but a means thereto, to bring you, if I can say, closer to the zero instant and to the truth. They were pretexts, but not an end in itself, and whether it was with the peoples of nature, whether it was with me or with others who came and came after, who did not carry a form, the Paraclete, the Sun Spirit, the choir of angels, Enelwaden, the impersonal, all this accustomed you not to identify a form through a voice, nor through the channelizer, nor through an identifiable entity. It has somehow made it easier for you to disidentify in any form, and this has happened and has occurred, I would even say regardless of your acquiescence or refusal. Whether you have heard me speak or not does not change anything, and there are many of you, at the time I have indicated, living something you do not understand, whether you sleep or not, but it is not important to identify. The important thing is to live it, not to know where it comes from, since in the end it only comes from you, since there is only you. All the others are other you, and when you accept that, there is no longer any space for distance, for suffering, for separation, and less for illusion. Are you satisfied with the answer? Sister: yes. Thank you very much. Sister: thank you. Next question. Voice: it is coming. Sister: hello BIDI. Hello. Sister: I haven't listened to you since 2012, I haven't been listening for very long now, Because in fact, before was in resistance with this brutal side, let's say, love, but on the other hand at 23 o'clock I call you, I have no doubt, and at the same time, I don't have the feeling that something is happening. So is it because I have had resistance up to now where the process is starting? Oh, stop confusing feelings, perception with reality. You can feel my presence, you can even see it, but if we don't merge into the one, it's useless. Others among you neither see me nor feel me, but notice the changes. The important thing is not only the feeling or perception, which belong to the illusion, the absolute is imperceptible, unconscious, and that is what penetrates you, whether you feel me or not, even if you were very numerous to see me, very numerous to receive me, to feel me, but do not confuse the moment of the experience and the results. We all tend to believe that if we perceive something, we live it, but we all know that perception passes and life stays. So don't rely on feeling or not feeling, but on the other hand, you can answer a question, since you connect to me, that you don't feel or perceive, have you noticed any changes in yourself? Sister, it's not obvious. How? Sister, it's not obvious. So, persist. But everything you do, whether it's the appointment I've made, whether it's the agape resonances, whether it's taking a brother or sister in your arms, listening to them, embracing them, all these are just experiences that pass away, do you agree? It is the result that is important, and since this result is not necessarily immediate, you lose sight of the causal element, you lose sight of the fact that this change comes from a cause, and so much the better. Don't rely solely on how you feel. What you feel is just passing through. Your perceptions, if they are present, whatever they are, they too are only passing through. You never pass. You're immutable. So stop, if you don't mind, always trying to assimilate the feeling or perception to the truth. Truth is not perceived or felt. It can only be lived, and it is independent of any perception, independent of any feeling. Feeling and perception only concern the interface between the ephemeral and the eternal, if you prefer, your vital body. The joy you live when you are free of yourself, you do not necessarily have perceptions. You have brothers and sisters who live this joy, and who understand nothing, or who feel nothing, or who perceive nothing. The important thing is not the feeling or even the perception, the important thing is what happens at the threshold, I would say, infraconscious, at the junction of the unconscious and the subconscious, at the junction of the unconscious and the conscious. This has been explained to you. Even the body of eternity passes, yet it is called the body of eternity, but you are anterior to eternity. When you talk about eternity, you oppose it, you compare it, and it is logical and normal to the ephemeral. But eternity is not truth, truth is the absolute and agape, love, which depends on nothing. So stop assimilating your perceptions to the truth, these are elements that may or may not lead you to the truth, but ultimately only cross you. You perceive, you feel, after you no longer perceive, you no longer feel, but what do you do with the result? Because if you understand in your head and in your experience that everything must be felt and perceived, you put your finger in your conscience, if not elsewhere. Laughs. You confuse cause, manifestation and reality. Nothing that is manifested is real. You predate any demonstrations. It is the only place where you are free, and it is within you, and it does not depend on any prerequisite, it does not depend on any consciousness, then that the goal is to make you live and discover for yourself that consciousness is a disease and not an evolution of anything. How what is perfect in the beginning could fall and should find the same truth. What the hell is this about? It exists only in the head, it exists only in a form, but love has no use for your form or any form. It is. And in this illusory and enclosed world, this has been explained to you by the elders, today the unknown is lived. But no perception, no feeling, is the truth. Truth is perception and a consciousness. It is what you really are beyond any form, beyond any dream, beyond any world, beyond any history. It's immutable. It is not a perception, it is not a feeling, it is a lived experience. That has nothing to do with it. And I know very well that, in general, there are still many of you, among what you call the awakened, the vibrating, who do not yet live the truth, because precisely, you are stopped by your feelings and your perceptions. You think that's the truth. No, it's something that passes, it's an interface, it's a fringe of interference, it's the place where the dream and the truth meet, which is reflected in this interface that you perceive and feel, but it's not the truth. Feeling and perception, as soon as you experience it, whatever the feeling or perception, look at how it is recovered by your own mind, which will make comparisons, confrontations that have no place in it. What I mean by that is that even your finest, most accurate perceptions are not the truth because they pass. You perceive at one moment, you no longer perceive at another. You feel at a moment such energy, such presence, such consciousness, but who can say that he will perceive, in the Marian channel, the presence of a being of light permanently, 24 hours a day? It does not exist. They are only demonstrations, and everything that is manifested, whatever the apparent time scale, only passes through. A solar system appears and disappears. Your scientists tell you that. Even if it is not on the scale of a human life, it is the same thing. You have countless traces in this illusory cosmos of ancient planets that have exploded, asteroid belts. All this is part of history. It seems to me that the planets revolve around the suns, just as electrons revolve around the nucleus. Even if a solar system is born and dies, it is concluded that it is only passing through. It is not the truth, it is the framework for the expression of a certain form of manifestation. The same is true for the human being, for the cell, for an animal, for a plant. Not everything that happens is true. Only what doesn't happen is true. A gape is nowhere else. If you let yourself be stopped, if you let yourself be seduced by feelings and perceptions, it is the same as in 2012 with the mind. You don't cross over, you freeze things. Be available for movement, for all movements, for all manifestations, knowing full well that all this is only passing, even on another time scale. Time is a total illusion, as is space. All this belongs to the dream, to the nightmare of consciousness, which believes it must go to another world, which believes it must live what has not been lived. But you have lived everything, absolutely everything, ever told you, and he has proved it to you in every possible way. Everything is written, everything has been written, and you cannot change a comma of the content of the dream, because you will only go from experience to experience, from feeling to feeling, from perception to perception. And it's going to last a few hours, a few days, and then you'll change your feelings, you'll change your perception. There is no question of replacing the mind with only feeling or perception. It is about living what is true, what never happens. You are what never happens. But if you're attracted more than necessary, and which has been lived for 30 years, since also the celestial weddings, the vidal, and the vidal, you see it well, the elders, or Melchizedeks that they are, have also been deceived by their perceptions, their visions. They have projected a future, they have projected a new root race, they have projected a new era. Who is telling the truth? The one who lives the truth. Not the one who dreams. Because what he dreams, like everything else, only passes through. All my words, all my sentences, all my quotations from today and when I was incarnate, have the sole objective of making you go through all this, and not to stop at feelings, at a perception or at anything. Do not be slaves to your feelings and perceptions. And I would say that today it is much easier for those who have never perceived anything, never felt anything, to be free than all those who are cluttered with visions, perceptions, feelings. The feeling is adapted to your person, is adapted to common circuits, what you call the ascending crown of the heart, for example, the gates, the stars, but you are none of these. You feel it and you are nothing of what you feel, you are nothing of what you see, you are nothing of your visions, and you are nothing of any future and any past. How do you want to get out of the dream? How do you want to wake up, to live the truth, if you base yourself only on 1. On your history, that again is understood for many, but if you still think that only feeling and perception will lead you to the truth, you are mistaken, since a consciousness is obviously a perception. NDT. Prior to consciousness, prior to perception. There is nothing, there is no one, there is only you, not you through your present, past or future identity, but you beyond form. To live this is to be truly and concretely liberated from all stories, from all perceptions. It doesn't mean that you don't perceive anything anymore, quite the contrary, but you perceive so many things that you don't care. Do not be drawn by feelings, perceptions or visions. Is a vision permanent? Of course not, of course not. Is an energy permanent? Of course not, of course not. Is a vibrational process permanent? No, absolutely not. The only permanent is in on-being, in a perception and in a consciousness, NDT. Prior to perception, prior to consciousness, there is happiness, nowhere else. Everything that happens, pleasant as well as unpleasant, always ends with an end. The truth has no end, no beginning. She is. That's what you are. So, understand well that what has served you, whether it is the mind, whether it is the energies, whether it is the vibrations, whether it is in a broader sense the perception or the feeling, today are obstacles to emptiness, obstacles to fullness. It is what stops, it freezes your consciousness and prevents you from seeing that it is a total disease. There's nothing you can do about it. It is precisely when you realize that you can do nothing about what you are free, because there you experience non-being, the fusion of the wide paradise and the absolute. This is where you recognize yourself, not in a perception, not even the most accurate one. It is in silence that truth is, in immutability, not in manifestation. The manifestation, whatever it may be, and here, in this case, the feeling and perception, is a movement, a displacement of balance. Do not confuse the demonstration with the result. The demonstration will never be the result, it is an interference. In the same way that Ebra explained to you in his works that you had passed from a gate resonance to a gate resonance network to the fire of the Sacred Heart, he even detailed the whole setting for you to recognize yourself, perhaps, but the only truth is you. It is not the unknown radiation that has appeared in the known. It simply allows you to wake up, it simply allows you to leave the dream and check that you are not the consciousness. And if you are not consciousness, you are not your feelings and perceptions, nor your visions. This is absolutely self-evident. It's the only place you can recognize yourself, everything else is just passing through. The universe will pass away, the whole creation will pass away, that you will always be there, you. But not in a form, not in a frame, not in a dimension, everywhere. That is, nowhere. So trying to understand that everywhere and nowhere is the same thing, how do you want to understand it? By a perception, by a feeling, it is impossible. Only through lived experience. Only by crossing all these external resonances. Do not be frozen on anything that passes, solar system, day, night, your life, birth and death, in this world as everywhere. I am not telling you to deny your perceptions, to deny your feelings, or even to refute them, but simply to accept that it is not something that is permanent. It's something that passes, no matter what time scale. And it seems to me that your life, our human life, lasts longer than the feeling, which lasts a few seconds or a few minutes, and which changes according to circumstances, according to your mental, energetic frame of reference, and your frame of reference even of perception itself. I repeat to you, those who today do not perceive and feel anything, settled in their simplest humanity that does not ask questions of any kind, but who are fully present in their lives, whatever their life, are much closer to the truth than those who are still inscribed in spirituality, which is a pure and simple fraud. The mind is immutable, it has nothing to do with consciousness. There is one spirit. So we say, there is a consciousness, yes, in the first dream, in the first emanation, which is the final emanation, the initial moment equals the final moment. And you come out of every cycle, every perception, every form, every world, every arrangement, every frame. You are free, despite the presence of this body, despite the presence of this world, despite the presence of pseudo-hierarchies, despite the presence of all dimensions. How do you explain that all the brothers and sisters who live concretely agape have no concern about any future, any dimension, any savior, any entity? They really live it. That doesn't mean they deny that there are ships, that there is Mary, or that there is Buddha, or that there are all these beings. But they are themselves, they have recognized themselves. It is not perception that has allowed them to recognize themselves, neither feeling, nor mind, nor emotions, but silence. You heard the dance of silence years ago. Everything has been developed on silence, on humility. Accept to be nothing at all, and you will be everything and nothing, and you will be true. Do you believe that nothing perceives a form, perceives an energy, perceives a consciousness? You are countless to approach beyond the white paradise, this darkness which is not shadow, but which is at the origin of light, at the origin of life. It is love, it is agape, it is what is everywhere. But agape is not only about feeling the breath of the heart, it is, above all, a state of lucidity, where you have recognized yourself, independently of your identity, your history, as well as any history and identity. You are no longer subject to a form, a dimension, or even this world. You're all worlds, you're all dreams, without exception. Whether you accept it or not does not change anything. It's too late, you've been through. That's how it is with each of my interventions. You're in the time of truth, you are not in the time of feeling or perception, which have helped you so much. You're in the time of truth, which has been called naked, of naked consciousness, of naked love, which depends on nothing. A consciousness is not a perception, it is impossible. It is an unspeakable lived experience. It's the only place you're whole. It's the only time you find yourself completely together. It is neither feeling, nor a perception, nor an energy, nor a vibration, even if there are vibrational witnesses, which have been explained to you. But no one would have the idea to say, I am my ascensional crown, after all. No one would have the idea of saying, I am my wings, or even today to say, I am my body of eternity. To discover the truth at all levels is to be nothing. It is not claiming a posture, a role, a function, it is not feeling, it is not perceiving, it is staying still, immobile, in silence, welcoming, accepting, being lazy. It means accepting to see the sensitive being, who perceives him. To give way to what does not perceive, to what does not feel, and yet can only satisfy you, and which really awakens you. Don't stand still on anything that happens. A human love. It passes, even if it lasts all your life, it is finished at death, whether you like it or not. And when you're old, you leave your children well. You say it's normal, it's logic. But all this is just role-playing, functions, occupations, and all that passes. Not everything that happens can be true. The truth cannot pass. It is immutable. Of course, we talk and you talk about zero time, the present instant, but how do you want to live in the present instant, if you have emotions that you know? How do you want to live in the present instant if your mind is constantly spinning? I would act today, how do you want to live the present moment, through some feelings, or any perceptions whatsoever? That's not true, that's impossible. You have brothers and sisters who live in the present moment, who have never been attracted by spirituality, energy, research, and who bear witness to the truth, and when you ask them about what they feel nothing, they are free from everything they feel. And yet, they are human, totally simple. Not everything that happens is real. Not everything that appears and disappears is more real. So of course, the spiritual ego has conceived karma, imposed by the icons, to say that you will do better next time, or that you pay for what you have done. But realize, you're the truth. How the truth could be altered, by any good or evil, by any manifestation whatsoever. Whether you accept my words or reject them, it doesn't matter. There are enough of you on earth to be true. Look at the testimonies, listen to them, read them. Do you think there would be so many crazy people or wacky people who would have the same delirium at the same time? No, they're true. What's crazy is the conscience, it's not a gape. What is a distortion is perception, not a gape. So of course it is important to cling, to be guided at first, to perceptions, but I repeat to you, you with brothers and sisters who have not passed or felt any energy, any chakra opening, any vibration, and who overnight are free. You can't understand them. You can't follow them. You can only eventually resonate with who they are, not what they say, not what they have lived through. You really need to get rid of everything that has been useful to you up to now, becomes totally useless in the face of the truth. The progression, the transformation, concerns the person, not the truth. So of course everything is done on this world, in this world, by society, by relationships of any kind, to bring you into an appreciation, a feeling, a perception, which correspond to the instant. But this is not the instant present. The truth of the present instant has no use for any entity, even the most prestigious. He is himself. He who is true is himself. He knows that the whole of the manifested really comes from what he is, by his presence in this world, by his abandonment, by his sacrifice. He lives freedom, smiles, naked joy, lightness. But you can see for yourself that in times when large numbers of perceptions arrive, it no longer brings you anything, it is only meant to distract you. It allowed you to cling to concepts, to things that were passing, that allowed you to sort of prune the ground, to draw a pseudo road easier. The truth cannot be perceived. It cannot be felt as an energy or vibration. It can only be lived. We insisted by constantly repeating to you that the lived experience was understanding. We never said that feeling or perception was the truth, at any time. And as I have said and I repeat, you have enough brothers and sisters living the truth today. In my time, incarnate, I was all alone. Today, there are many of you. You only need to meet once a brother or sister who lives agape, to appreciate, not an energy or a feeling, not even if it is real, in the instant, but especially to put you in the presence of zero time. Time zero is not a speech, is not a form. The best definition is the present instant, nothing else. You can only notice that everything else is going on, your loves, your life, the days, the nights, the dreams, your profession, your job, your school, your illness. These are events. You are no event, because you are the source of all events, here and everywhere. It is not for nothing that we have used expressions such as the heart of the heart, the 0 point. It is not for nothing that we have you, not me in any case, but the elders, told the story of the earth. It was not to adhere to history, it was to find the thread of the origin, the first breath, the first disease, that is, the first consciousness. That's all. That's all. Do not be subject to anything or anyone. You are your own authority, you are your own truth. Not everything that happens is true. Everything that appears disappears. The truth does not appear, it has always been there, all those who live it tell you that. They had simply forgotten it. Everything that is outside, in this world or elsewhere, is illusory. Only what you cannot see, which is from everywhere and nowhere, but in this body, in this bag of meat, in this sacred temple, is still located in the center of the heart. The center of the heart, like the hub of the wheel, does not move, but allows the wheel to rotate. You are not the wheel that rotates, you are the hub that allowed the wheel to turn, in every body, in every form and in every world. You are what has allowed everything to pass, the emanation of the dream, the manifestation itself, the consciousness itself. I can't prove it to you, I can't demonstrate it to you, but you can live it. But for that, you must not put anything in front of you, no request, no hope, no despair, no emotion, no concept, no mental, no perception, whatever it may be. Yet you have countless brothers and sisters who today live the truth, without knowing where it came from, how it happened, how it appeared, or in fact how they found each other. When we tell you that you can only re-knowledge yourself, Look at the testimonies, read them, listen to them, exchange with the brothers and sisters who are free. You can see that they are terribly human, terribly simple. They go through all the feelings, all the experiences, like what they are, things that pass. Nothing else. And you believe in a general way, and we all believed in incarnate, even when I was young. When we take hold of something that passes, we release nothing, we make it a memory, something frozen, and we want to relive it in the present. But this is not how you make yourself available for the truth. On the contrary, you move away from it. The truth is there, in you, that's who you are. That doesn't mean you can't live your life, but as has been said, you become the life that accompanies your life. And your life can only be perfect in everything that happens. Those who live this freedom know it, they live it every day. Whatever happens, it happens, with or without them, but they know it's not them. It is a great freedom, a great smile, and such recognition, it is total and whole. How do you want to recognize yourself? Through a vision, whatever it may be. How do you want to recognize yourself? Through a feeling or perception, since that's what freezes you. In the same way that the mind had frozen you, that you did not see it then, for the most part, today, who can say that he does not see his own mind, even if he is not free of it? It will be the same, very quickly, for what you call feeling and perception. These are elements that pass. You are nothing of what is happening, and you are nothing of what is passing. I can't prove it to you, but you can prove it to yourself, very quickly, instantly. Understand that beyond stories, wounds, memories, habits, some of you today are literally frozen in the discovery of yourself, by feelings, perceptions and visions, by consciousness itself. We have always told you, even before me, the elders told you, consciousness is vibration. But you're the immutability of zero time. You're all manifestations, and yet at the same time, you are none at all, from the instant you live the truth. One more question. Voice. A question coming up. Brother. Hello BIDI. Well, then, I can't get out of my mind about my material future, and that's it. It means you still believe in yourself. It means that somewhere there are fears, you say so yourself. There is no space for solution from this point of view. Believing that with your person, you can fix this, is an illusion. Only by letting go of the person can you laugh about it. Everything you think you can hold holds you, the future holds you. It means that somewhere you are still in a linear perspective, believing you come from a past and going towards a future. Of course, like perceptions and feelings, this behavior that you cannot overcome literally freezes you. So don't try to get rid of any behavior, but get rid of yourself above all. You still adhere to the character, you adhere somewhere to your own scenario, but it is no longer time today for any so-called personal work, which is doomed to failure. You're just seeing it. Accept that you are the truth, and nothing that happens or any tomorrow will affect you. It's that somewhere, and blatantly, you still believe you're a person, you still believe you are this body, this life, and indeed it is killing you. Leading means being heavy. Leading means not accepting lightness. But lightness is not tomorrow according to your safety. I repeat, she's only in the instant. So, whatever the causes, whatever the reasons, all this is not true. You have nothing to do but say it yourself, it's not true. Whoever is agape does not know tomorrow, cannot have the slightest apprehension of tomorrow, no matter what happens. You can see that there is a certain distance between a personal positioning and a positioning of the permanence of being and non-being, where life is fluid, life is easy. It is fully recorded in the present instant. You can't be thinking about tomorrow today, and living in the present moment. You can't be free by accepting the person's lived experience. I have no solution to offer you other than to tell you, forget about yourself. I told you about lightness or density, it's exactly that, an invitation to be lighter, an invitation to immerse yourself in the fullness of the instant. You don't need to meditate for that, you don't need to pray or ask, you're the solution, really and concretely, in the true way. Today you all verify it. If you rely on energy, on vibration, on speeches, if you rely on feelings or perceptions, well, you can only find that you are not free. While those who no longer rely on perceptions, feelings, even if they are present, are fully available for the instant. These are free. You can't be tomorrow and today. There's no point in rebelling against your character, there's no point in mistreating him. Accept that you are none of these things, that you are naked joy, that you are happiness, something that your character will never reach, never your person. At that moment, you can only be authentic, even if you don't live it, because it is the only real and true thing, and you can only live it. Does not give more weight to what already has a certain density, but gives more time and space to what is light. I mean, you're still looking too much at what's heavy. How do you want to live freedom and truth if you always look at what is wrong, in the world or in you? What you are paying attention to is getting stronger. What you are opposed to remains the same. It has been explained in every possible sense. It is the principle of acceptance. Accept this fear, accept that it is the normal game of consciousness. It will allow you to live that you are not consciousness, nor this form, nor this body, nor this world, nor any world. There is joy, it is not in the pursuit of an objective, and even less in the need to relieve yourself of anything, because you are only maintaining the game, the role, the illusion, especially now. Ebba has told you for months, zero time is accessible to everyone. You don't have to make any effort, quite the contrary. You have to stop giving the slightest credit to what is happening, to what is passing, to what is heavy. I think the commander said it, how can you be fine if you just look at what's wrong? That's impossible. We did say to stop looking at your belly button, look at your belly button and look at your heart, it's not really the same thing. In one case, there is suffering, the narrow character in his life, happy or unhappy, and in the other there is the truth. It's one or the other. And the acting of the theatre scene that you call ascension, liberation or whatever, is there for that reason alone. It's happening now, it's not happening tomorrow, it didn't happen yesterday. It's happening right now, if you accept it. But do not feed what is bad, do not look at what is bad, it is not a denial, nor a refutation, it is accepting to feed the truth rather than the illusion. If you nourish the truth, even without living it, even without knowing it, you can only love it and recognize it. No one can escape this. By the density, by the attention you pay to the character you play, you trap yourself. You are putting yourself in pain. There is no culprit, there is no executioner, and there are no victims. There is only you with yourselves, totally and entirely. And when I say yourself, I am not talking about your form, I am not talking about your life, I am talking about life. Remember, and you will all verify it, everything you oppose can only be reinforced. Time zero necessarily implies, when it is present, even if you do not live it, that everything that refers to the linear, everything that was logical, everything that was action-reaction, can no longer be maintained. Once again, action-reaction, or thanksgiving. You decide, really. But if you give credit to a fear, an emotion, a story, you create that, you create walls, and then you are surprised not to live the truth. The truth doesn't care about your fears, your sores, your life, your stories. Everything is only a pretext today to surrender yourself to the freedom that you are. But if you give way to the dream, you remain a ghost, who believes he is subject to conditions, emotions, to tomorrow. The truth is not tomorrow, so it's not true. All the fear you manifest in the present is only related to habits, memories, or projections, to nothing else. And you have all the skills, like anyone else, to see and live it. There is no difference, it has been said over and over again. The saint as well as the assassin only play roles, to which you have attributed values, according to laws of action-reaction, according to justice. How can you be fair in what is totally unfair, to believe you have this body, this life, to have children, to have parents, to have a home, where is the freedom in there? Think about it for 2 minutes, but really think about it. Freedom is a gift, and the gift is the same for everyone, for every dreamer. Why do we insist so much on the difference between the experience of love and suffering? Because you can only see it in yours everywhere around you. He who is free, can lose his body, can lose this world, he remains free. It does not depend on circumstances, it does not depend on anything that is manifested, yet it accepts the manifestation. Remember, everything you rightly believe you have to oppose, or at least understand, can only get stronger. It can disappear from your mental concerns, from your emotions, but it doesn't disappear from your body. On the contrary, they are communicating vessels, and when you are in these communicating vessels, you have the impression that by emptying a level, you liberate all the levels. There is nothing more wrong. When you empty one level, it goes to another level. That is the law of action-reaction, nothing to do with Thanksgiving. You do not yet see the role you play in a very deep way. You confuse the role with the truth. The actor who plays a role, when he comes out of the theater, the stage, or the game, as Ego would say, video, he understands that it was a game, that it was a role. You still agree to be the role or the game. There is nothing real in what is happening. The only true security is truth, not an illusory security of your body or of this world. All the mystics have told you that this thirst for love must be stronger than anything else. You must be thirsty for truth, no manifestation, no perception. You must be thirsty for the absolute, reaching out to this stranger, totally, and graces will rain down. If graces do not rain, it is because you care about yourself in the role, you care about the character, you care about the story, you care about pleasure, about desire. All these happinesses are not true. Every desire needs to be reproduced, to be recontented, at whatever level, as you know, whether it is a food pleasure, an emotional pleasure, a sexual pleasure. Agape's pleasure has nothing to do with this. It is permanent, lasting satisfaction, which never fluctuates, no matter what happens. You cannot maintain the character, pretend to change the character and be true. It is a total law that everything you call the subtle has deliberately maintained. The energies, the karma, the invisible, have ultimately only responded to your requests and your own dreams within the dream. Living in the true state puts an end to everything that is in the order of the person. The person will not disappear, but any desire, any impulse, of any kind, is replaced in agape by contentment. You are happy with everything. So of course, from an ego point of view, it may seem like a blustering, an illusion. From an ego point of view, it will always be false, yet it is the ineffable truth that millions of brothers and sisters live by. They have no more capacity than each of you, they have no more potential than each of you, they are not ahead, they are the same, they are you. So what do you prefer? If you need identification with anything, you prefer your character who is afraid of tomorrow or who suffers from his memories, or you prefer to be the iron that lives agape. It's up to you. As you say in popular parlance, honestly, there is no photo. It is incomparable, it is by no means superimposable. And there is no distance to be like that. You are the ones who are distant from the truth. Accept things as they are, do not judge them, do not condemn them, and go through them. You're the key. Accept that there is nothing else but you, but what do you define as you? The character, the passing identity or the unchanging truth. And I am talking about a decision, about you, about your person, about your conscience itself. It is not a choice, it is an act to be taken. Do you understand the difference between having a choice or taking action? The choice is the result of a hesitation, a comparison. Thanksgiving is the logic of light, which has nothing to do with the slightest claim of any form whatsoever, which has nothing to do with anything, even if it is present from everywhere in this world. Without it there would be no life, no possible manifestation. It has always been there. You are what has always been there, not in this passing form, not even in your consciousness, but in what I have called the eternal I, or as Ebba says, the absolute I. It is the same thing. Again, it is not a choice, it is an act that you do in your privacy, or that you have not done, quite simply. But you can't negotiate with that. If unconsciously, or subconsciously, you say to yourself, Okay, I accept it. It's over. This time you missed the opportunity. Love is an unconditional surrender of the character, of history, of attachments, of bonds, of everything. But I am not saying, do not misunderstand, that you must cut off ties with parents, children, family, profession. It is in the situation where you are, precisely in what you are living, in the heart of illusion, that the truth is buried. Let it be. You are never asked by the light to renounce your life, even in sacrifice, but simply to renounce your claims, whatever they may be. It is you today who put a distance, when you say, I don't live it or I live it at times. You're the one who's depriving yourself of your freedom. No circumstance in this world, even torture, can deprive you of the freedom you are. Nothing in this world, nothing in any world can prevent you from living the truth, except what you believe about yourself, except the limits you impose on yourself by believing yourself to be a story. It all comes back to you, absolutely everything. And remember that sentence that Eb repeated, and that I said when I was incarnate. The search for the truth will end your world, which means that the truth is not present in this world. It is only present in a place, in a given space, which is here and now. Hikkebnums, as the archangel would say. Everything else passes, everything else is not true, everything else takes you away from the truth, everything else diverts you, obstructs you. It is not for nothing that we spoke at the beginning of naked love, naked joy and naked consciousness. These are not words that are used even if they are decorations, only to look pretty. Somehow, they resonate beyond understanding, and even beyond the common meaning of the word, to bring you ever closer to zero time there too. I talk a lot. Are there any other questions? Voice. It is past 7:30. Then it's time to stop talking. Thank you for being here, and BIDI says see you tonight, as usual. See you soon. See you tonight, BIDI. Thank you. See you tonight. See you tonight, BIDI. Thank you. Interviews of July 2019, Figures. Published by Apotheosis Live. Through Jean-Luc Young. Les Transformations. English translation, LMF.